welcome back to my channel. This is Kenesabowe. If you're new here, welcome. If you have been here before, welcome back. Today is Bible study, and we are coming from chapters Genesis 37 through all the way to Genesis 50. Now, I'm not going to read all of this verbatim, okay? I'm going to be doing a lot of paraphrasing, but I will encourage you all to please, when you do have a chance and you do have time to yourself, to go back and read Genesis 37, chapters 37 through 50. It is about the Joseph story. It's one of my favorite stories of the Bible. It's a very powerful story. It shows God's power. It shows how God will move in your life even when the enemy tries everything he can to stop you. God will still get you to your destiny. Kind of like the Job story, but a little different. But I really like this story and how it plays out. So we're gonna get into it real quick. I've already said my prayer before I started the video. But again, I do encourage you all to read Genesis 37 through 50. This is a very significant story in the Bible. It covers a quarter of Genesis. So it's very significant, and it's a very famous story. I think every minister that I've come across references Joseph some form or fashion. I hear it all the time. 10 years ago, God led me to actually read this story for the first time. And I sat there and I read that story. I started in, Genesis 1. And after I read that, I kept going. God led me to the Joseph story, and I just kept going through. And then when I got to the Joseph story, I read that entire story. It probably took me, because I had stuff going on, so it probably took me like a day and a half to really complete it. But man, let me tell you, it was like I could literally see the story pop off the pages. I could see everything acting out. So it's a very powerful story. So I do encourage you all to read it. However, we will be paraphrasing a lot today. I wanted to start off saying Joseph had a lot of brothers. He is the son of Jacob, and Jacob, he loved Joseph. Joseph had a call on his life. For those, you chosen ones out here, this story is for you, so pay attention. But Joseph was chosen at a very early age. Jacob favored him and his younger brother, but he mainly favored Joseph because he was Rebekah's son. He was the oldest of Rebekah's children, but he really favored him, and I think he knew that God favored him. At the age of 17, Jacob gave Joseph a coat of many colors. And what that signified was God putting the mantle on Joseph through his father. So it's like his natural father was giving him the coat of many colors, but in the spiritual realm, it was God giving Joseph the mantle, letting him know that he's been selected. He's a chosen one. So Joseph at the age of 17 was very wise, but naive at the same time. Wise, when I say wise, I mean he could solve problems that others couldn't solve that were older than him. He solved the problem for the brothers who were fighting over the calves. He divided them up, for them and stopped the argument and solved the problem, and they went off with their own, lambs or whatever. But he and I may have said that wrong, but when you read it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But he also, his dad looked to him to to cover, to maintain the sheep, to look over the sheep, and to bring back more than what when he sent him out, he always was able to bring back more than the brothers. And a lot of times he would do this alone, and the brothers would be together and they would be losing sheep, and he would be bringing in more sheep. So Jacob knew that God favored Joseph. He knew that he had favor over his life. He knew that he was very wise and that God had given him wisdom and knowledge and power to do certain things that others couldn't do. So when Joseph received the coat of many colors in front of his brothers, his dad, his brothers were very, very jealous. Now, before he received the coat of many colors, Joseph shared a dream. So the topic is the dreamer, the Joseph story. So Joseph shared his dream with his family. He shared a dream that he was shown in the dream that, his brothers and his fathers, all of them will be bowing down to him. Like their sheaves will bow down to his sheaves, right? And that God would have elevated him up, towards, with the stars and the moon, So when he shared the story with his brothers and his family, his brothers were very jealous. They got very jealous. They got angry with him because, basically he was saying he was going to be above them. He was going to be leading them in some sort. And they were going to have to bow to him and need him. And they didn't like that because they already didn't like the fact that Jacob already favored Joseph and that God favored. That meant God favored Joseph. And so they were jealous. They were angry with him. They hated him. And that's a strong word, but they hated Joseph. They hated his dreams. They hated him for his dreams. They hated him for the love that Jacob showed him. They hated him for the love that God showed him, right? So they all conspired against Joseph. And when Jacob sent Joseph out to, find his brothers, the brothers had already had a plan of what they wanted to do, to Joseph. So when he found the brothers and he, shared with them what the father said, the oldest brother was angry, and they all, him and a few more conspired against Joseph, and they hit him in the head with a rock, and they threw him in a pit. And they threw him in a pit, and then they was trying to figure out what they wanted to do with him. They thought he was dead, actually, but then when he woke up, they started moving around. They realized he was not dead. So they took some men came into, they saw some men coming in, so travelers, so they decided to sell Joseph to as a slave, and said that he wasn't worthy and he's a slave, and so they sold him for 20 pieces of silver. When the brothers sold Joseph off, they thought that it was done. It was over, They thought that his destiny, the things that he saw in his dream, would never come to pass. Now, think about your lives. You think about the people who you shared your dreams with. You could have been young and you shared your dreams with people who you thought loved you, were supposed to support you, be there for you, joy, come in the joy with you. When you share something like that with somebody, you expect them to be just as joyful as you are about your dream, right? And if you ever notice, those people you share those dreams with, they frown at you, they make faces, they get angry with you, their countenance shows disbelief or discouragement, like they don't support it, they don't, acknowledge it, right? You ever had those people in your life? Okay, those are dream killers. Okay, you stay away from those people. You stay away from those people. You pay attention when God shows you who those people are in your life, and don't share your dreams with them no more. You make sure you keep that stuff to yourself. Keep it to yourself, because God showed you for a reason. He didn't show it to them. He showed you for a reason, so that, because he's letting you know what the future holds for your life. He's letting you know where he's taking you, okay? So Joseph, at being 17, like I said, he was very wise to be 17, but he was also naive, because He trusted his brothers. He trusted that they had the heart he had. And his brothers didn't have his heart. His brothers didn't have the same heart as him. And he realized that once they sold him. So let's go back to the story. So he sold off. And they go back and tell the dad, oh, he's dead. And they take the lamb's blood and put it on the coat. And they show the coat to the dad and say, he was, some wild animal got him or something like that. And the dad is now heartbroken because that's his son. That's the one that he favored so much. And he went into mourning. And he told the brothers they will all be in mourning until the day he passed. So moving forward, Joseph is sold into slavery. He goes to, he is a slave for a few years. While he's a slave, even though he was sold into slavery, God still had favor over Joseph. God still made sure Joseph shined. Regardless of what situation he was in, he made sure Joseph shined bright wherever he was. So he always ended up being a leader in some sort, right? He always made sure that there was a light on him, that he shined through the darkness, that he, people noticed him. People always noticed him and made sure he led, in whatever position he was put in, he was always in a leadership role. So he caught the attention of Potiphar. So once he caught the attention of Potiphar, Potiphar asked him to come into his home, and as a servant, and he was a servant for Potiphar. And while he was in there serving Potiphar, Potiphar's wife, she started becoming conniving and started plotting and planning, because she really wasn't in love with Potiphar like that. And she saw Joseph, and she desired Joseph and wanted Joseph. And every time she see him helping Potiphar, she'd, be staring at him and wanting to be around him and, have him to do things for her. And so one day she approached, Joseph and asked him, to be with her. And he denied her. And when he denied her, it angered her. And so because he denied her, he rejected her, she decided to go tell Potiphar that he, charged her or raped her or forced himself on her. And so when she told Potiphar that, he threw Joseph in prison. So when he threw Joseph into prison, he was there for years. And while he was in the prison, again, he's in the prison, and you would think that's the lowest of the low, right? But even then, God still had his light on him. He still had his that gleam. He still was able to get the attention of, the prison guards. And because of that, God allowed him to be a leader in the prison. And in that, there were times where people in the prison would have dreams, and they needed someone to interpret the dreams. So Joseph was there to interpret those dreams. And he interpreted two guys they stated in the Bible that were in the prison with him, and he let one of them know that his position in the house, in Potiphar's house, would be restored. He let the other one know that his dream meant that he would that they were going to kill him, that Potiphar and his men were going to kill him instead of restoring his position back into the house. And so after he shared the dreams with them, it came to pass. The one who he told would be lynched or they were going to kill, they did. They in fact killed him. And then the one that he shared with him that he would be restored back to his position in Potiphar's house was restored back to position. And then the one that was restored back to position ended up going back to Potiphar's house. And then while he was there, Pharaoh had a dream, and Pharaoh, it disturbed him. The dream disturbed him. He had a few dreams, and they disturbed him, and he wanted to know what they meant. And he called all the soothsayers and all those people around, the dream interpreters around, and nobody could interpret this dream. And then that's when the guy remembered, hey, there was a guy in prison who, interpreted my dream and another guy's dream, and it came to pass. And so, Pharaoh was like, bring him to me. And so they brought him to him, and he told him his dream, and Joseph was able to interpret it. And he said the 7 lean calves were calves who were the 7 healthy calves was going to be meaning that 7 years of good fortune, abundance and stuff like that. And then the 7 lean calves were meaning that there was going to be 7 years of famine. And so he, basically gave him a plan, to like make sure, whatever you do in that first 7 years, store things, make sure you store everything up, grains and whatever you need to store up, so that you're ready and able to survive during the famine. And so that compelled Pharaoh. Pharaoh was like, wow, I need him. I need him by my side. I need him. I need his wisdom, his God. Even though Pharaoh didn't believe in God, you know what I'm saying? But because of the God in Joseph and how he was able to interpret his dream, it meant a lot to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh knew that he could trust Joseph. And he could trust the God in him. So he sent him back to get cleaned up, to get polished up, to get jeweled up, hair did, nice robe and all of that. And he blessed Joseph. He put the mantle, even though God had already put the mantle on Joseph, Pharaoh put his mantle on, the worldly mantle, crowning, whatever, on Joseph, and gave him a signet ring and a robe and nice jewels and stuff, necklace and stuff, and to let him know that he was now put in a position in leadership on this earth. And so, even though he already knew he was a leader, he already knew, he already saw his destiny at 17. He just didn't know how he was going to get there. And he didn't know he was going to go through all of this stuff. And like all of us, God will show us our destiny. And sometimes we're thinking, we're going to shoot straight to it. But if we knew that we were going to have to go through all of these little pitfalls and prisons and Potiphar's house to get to the palace, like, we probably wouldn't say yes, right? We wouldn't say yes to the assignment. We wouldn't say yes to God's will, right? And that's why God don't show us the road or the path. He'll show you the destiny. He will show you the end goal. He will show you where you're going. But he will not show you the path, because he knows if he shows you the path, you might not want to go down that path. You might say no. You might turn around and stay where you are, right? So, he's now Joseph is now seeing what God has for him. He's seeing the fruition, the manifestation of what God showed him at 17. He's seeing it, right? So he gets all dolled up. He's looking good. He's in position, and he's now second in charge. He is now the right hand of Pharaoh. He is second in charge. Like, he, is the highest of them all. So people come to him for wisdom, for guidance. Pharaoh comes to him for wisdom, for guidance, to make sure that the land is stand prosperous and they're flourishing, right? And so Joseph makes sure he has it set up to where, when the famine hits, their land is straight. They don't have to worry about lack for anything, food or anything, because they've been storing for all those years. They even have enough for when other people come into town and they need something from them, they can get it from Joseph, right? So God knew that Joseph had a great heart. He knew that he could trust Joseph. He knew that his heart was pure. He knew that Joseph always treated people fairly. He knew that Joseph stood on his integrity, right? Because when Potiphar's wife approached him, he still was like, no, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? He stood on that. And God knew through the testing, right? Through the different trials, through the different tribulations, he knew, once he realized, okay, Joseph, I took him through this storm, I took him through this test. He has passed every single test. So it shows that as long as you continue to move forward, as long as you continue to strive, as long as you continue to hold on to your integrity, treat people right, treat people fairly. Even when things are being thrown at you, you still have a good heart. Don't let people harden your heart. God will still get you to that palace. He will still get you to your destination. He will still take you to the place that he showed you before, right? Your destination, right? So his story is so powerful. So even when he got into position and his brothers and them were in famine and they were in need, Jacob sent them to Pharaoh's place, and they said, there's this king, or this man, or governor, they called him governor, who's helping people, blessing people, and have stuff stored for other people, that he's blessing people, so let's go there. So Jacob sends the brothers, and he keeps the younger son. And the brothers go there, and they're before Joseph. And they don't know who Joseph is. They don't have no clue who he is. And Joseph's standing there, and he knows exactly who they are. They look the same. They haven't changed. He knows exactly who they are, but they have no clue who he is, right? So he goes there, they go there, and they're asking, pleading for, they're bowing, they're pleading, for help my family, we need this, we need that. And Joseph, immediately kind of gets angry at first. And those emotions come up. We're human too, y'all. We're human. And those emotions come up, and he's thinking about everything that they did to him, right? And he's like, oh, I want to be mean, And then for a moment, he kind of gives them a hard time and messes with them a little bit, right? To show his power, to show his, his control or whatever. So when he do reveal himself, he's like, yeah, this me. This is who I told you I was going to be. And, so he shows his little control a little bit, and he tells them to go back and get the younger brother, and, this and that and the third. And he takes one of the brothers into captivity and holds him in a cell. And while he's in the cell, his guards are like being mean to him, and Joseph he's sitting back and allowing it, and it hurts him. It hurts him. He starts to get emotional about it, and it hurts him, but he don't say anything to stop it. He lets them do whatever it is that they're doing to the brother, because he's angry in that moment. He's upset. He's like, allowing a little bit of payback to happen for his brother, right? And so the other brothers are going back to get the younger brother Benjamin, I believe, to bring back to him, because that was his whole brother that his dad had with is it Rebecca or Rachel? I think it's Rachel. Rachel. So I think I said that wrong. But him and his baby brother were the only two sons of Rachel's kids. So so I'm sorry if I said that wrong. But Rachel's kids. So he wanted to see him, and so they went back to get the baby brother, and then he had one of the other brothers in captivity, so that they would have to come back with the brother. So Jacob was like, no, I'm coming with you, because you're not going to take my other son from me. Joseph's already dead. You're not going to take my son with me. Without me. So he goes with the other boys back and takes Benjamin to the palace, right? And he's before him, and he, says something to Joseph, and then eventually Joseph says, I am, he releases the brother. He asked them to bring the brother out. And then once he brings the other brother out, then he reveals himself to his family and lets them know that he is Joseph, the brother who was sold into captivity by the brothers, and let them know that he was alive. And his dad hugged him and cried, and was like happy that he was still alive. And the brothers were in awe, because they thought they destroyed him. They thought he was dead. They thought he wouldn't make it out of slavery. They thought that, he's long gone by now. Like, they didn't think they would ever see him again. And he let the brothers know that what they did not hurt him. It actually helped him. It actually pushed him towards his destiny, right? Instead of hindering him from his destiny. Had he stayed with his brothers, it may would have took him a lot longer to get to his destiny, right? But because they sold him to slavery, it actually propelled him to destiny. It pushed him forward even further and closer to his destiny than not. So sometimes we got to get away from the familiar. Sometimes we got to get away from family and our homeland to get what God has for us. Because if God shows you something, right? And if whatever he shows you is in the magnitude of like up there and you can't see it happening in the area where you are at that moment, and God is telling you eventually I'm sending you out. I'm taking you somewhere. I'm taking you out away from here so that I can make sure this destiny happens, or you reach your destination and it comes to pass. So the brothers did not harm Joseph. It actually helped him. They thought they were hurting him. They thought they were hindering his dreams from coming true, but it actually helped him. Isn't it funny how God works? God will allow your enemies to be your footstool, y'all. Like, he will allow your enemies to be your footstool to help you get up to the level which he's supposed to be, where you're supposed to be and where he's taking you. So in that moment, God used those brothers, or he allowed the brothers to be used to be a footstool for Joseph to propel him to his destiny. So I just love this story so much. I literally just watched the movie again probably a week ago because I just love it. I love it. I love how God orchestrated it, how he, did everything in Joseph's life. Because even though Joseph went through testing, God still had a plan for his life. He still was going to make sure he reached his destiny no matter what. He still had an intended end for him, and it was going to be for good and not for evil. It was still going to be what God said. Even though he went through the trials, he went through the tests and tribulations and all of that, it was to develop him, his character, to develop him as a man, as in his spirit. And God wanted to see how much he could trust him, right? Because to whom much is given, much is required. And God knew what he had for Joseph. And he needed to know that he could trust him at that level. And so that's why at every level he tested Joseph, or he allowed Joseph to be tested to see if he could handle what he was getting ready to give him. So I encourage all of you today, whatever you're going through, if God has already chosen ones, dreamers especially, God has shown you your end. If he has shown you your destination, keep going. Keep the faith. Keep being good to people. Keep treating people right and fairly. Keep praying for your friends, loved ones, and even your enemies. Continue to hold tight to your integrity. Do not waver. Do not waver. Do not do what the world is doing. Do not get caught up in what everybody else is doing. You stay firm on what you believe in. You stay firm on what God is telling you to do. Okay? Temptations are going to come. And make sure you flee from it. Make sure you resist it. Resist the devil and he will flee. Make sure you resist it and keep moving forward. And God will get you to your expected end. Whew. It took me a long time to get this one done, y'all, because I knew how powerful this story is. And I wanted to be careful in how I presented it to you guys. I wanted to make sure it was God, presenting it and not me. So I'm just grateful that God has been working with me on it, and he was here with me on today because I felt his presence so heavy. And so I'm grateful that I was able to get this story out to you guys in this Bible study, because I've been talking about it, and I'm hoping that it correlates with the last segment that we had about dreams and stuff like that, and be mindful of your dreams. And that's why I said the next one will kind of correlate and you will understand what I'm talking about. But pay attention to your dreams. Joseph paid attention to his dreams. He held on to that dream that God showed him, and then look, he ended up it ended up being what God showed him. So pay attention to your dreams, y'all. Pay attention to your dreams and listen to God and follow God, and hold on to your integrity, and don't lose faith. Don't lose hope. Don't lose sight of who you are, and be mindful of who you share your dreams with, because not everybody can handle what God is sharing with you. Not everybody can handle where God is taking you. There's going to be some people who shows their jealousy, and they're going to try to stop the plans of God, but they can't. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. That's all I got today. I encourage you all to read it for yourselves if you haven't already done so. Connect with me on social media, Kenesabowe. I keep it simple, Kenesabowe. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and yeah. Also, click the notification bell. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. If your name pops up, I will be shouting you out in my next video. So definitely make sure you subscribe, and even comment down below if you have. Let me know, guys, if you already read this story or not, or if you plan to. It's a wonderful story. I love this. This is one of my favorites. So love you guys. Thank you guys so much, and I will be back with another video.